Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me? Is my mic working? High, then higher, then even higher. Let's go, man. Not sure about it this time though, but yeah, let's see. Nice. I wanted to take this long as well this morning. Chose for Ethereum instead, but Hype is looking good as well, in my opinion. One of the only altcoins, to be honest. There's a couple, but yeah, overall, it's not looking too good, in my opinion. Hmm. Right. So I'll give my thoughts on Bitcoin, I guess, on some charts, some altcoin charts as well, the ones I'm in especially. I didn't announce this live stream before we went live, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, we'll do some requests at the end, but it's mostly just a market review that I'll just record live, you know. So you will be able to rewatch after the stream. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask. Keep your requests until I say so, and then we'll see what we can do. Okay, starting with Bitcoin. So if you saw yesterday review, you already saw quite a bit of what I'm now going to say. But overall, the idea on why that we have to be cautious, in my opinion, is this weekly swing failure pattern. Okay, so swing failure patterns on the weekly are not something you can take lightly, in my opinion, not something you want to just blindly ignore. We saw some here, beautiful example, and look at what happened after. Boom, all of this downside. So are we gonna get something similar? We don't know, but what we do know is that bears or shorts have a really clean invalidation from here, in my opinion. What's the invalidation? Well, a break above range high, a break, a pump higher that basically invalidates this swing failure pattern. So straight away, if you're looking for shorts, anything is a good short, in my opinion, with invalidation above here. I wouldn't short here with your invalidation, let's say above here, because I could see a spike in there and then still a drop to range lows. But straight up, what invalidates this bearish swing failure pattern? Well, a pump and a strong close, at least above all of these candle closes. If we do that this week, we pump above there and close strong, then I wouldn't be surprised if bulls manage to push through and that we head for new all-time highs next. As long as we don't do that, and maybe we close here in the red, next week pump and sweep last week's high and continue downwards, or we even close a little bit higher, we close above range mean but still weak, and then the week after we pump and get rejected again, right? Those are the bearish scenarios. So for me personally, it's a waiting game for now. I don't really feel comfortable longing this on Bitcoin, at least. Although I do think we're in an area where I could see a bounce, but I'd rather look for other longs on altcoins, on Ethereum mostly, because that has a little bit cleaner price action in my opinion, and would wait on Bitcoin to either look for bearish price action higher up and look for a sneaky short towards range lows, or wait for the optimal entry lower down on the sweep of range lows. So using this sort of bias on the higher time frames, right, and thinking about the candle on the weekly, what we want to see in order for us to target higher, what we want to see in order for us to target lower, we're gonna use that information on the lower time frames to make our plan and go from there. Okay, so straight away, well, on the daily, nothing too much to mark out on the daily. On the 4 hour though, let's see where local liquidity is resting. And if you take at where the last couple of key highs were, it's gonna be this one and this one, both unswept. So lower time frame liquidity, I think, is gonna be resting above these highs. Now the question is, to the downside, where's key liquidity gonna be resting? Well, lower time frames, obviously we've been heading down, so quite a bit of lower time frame liquidity to the downside already got taken. The higher time frame liquidity, right, to the upside has been taken on this sweep, weekly sweep. So where's high time frame liquidity to the downside gonna be resting? Well, below these range low levels. So for me, the big long would be an aggressive sweep below here, then strength again, a reclaim of range lows, just like we've seen multiple times. Right here, for example, one was the latest one, aggressive sweep, and look at that reaction that ultimately led to a lot higher. Okay, from this, it's basically the same, right? You take profit on a setup like that, you take profit on the way up. You're not always gonna get new highs. Here, for example, I was looking for exactly the same on the sweep of this. You got the sweep, reclaim, and it still managed to get to new highs, right? So take profit on the way up in a scenario like this, and don't be too aggressive. Don't be overly bullish, targeting like 140 before taking any profits on margin. The bigger swings are just for spot holdings. Margin is for taking profit. I've made the same mistake, by the way, holding positions for too long and then round tripping a lot of unrealized P&L. But anyways, so lower time frames, as I said, low time frame liquidity gonna be resting above there. So a couple scenarios that I see here. Either we bottom, we're sitting at low time frame demand here, the sideways price action that led to the move towards these highs. So let's say we bounce here, right, and make it to these highs. That will be an area to be cautious, in my opinion. Why? Because, as I said, high time frame liquidity is still going to be resting down here. High time frame liquidity to the upside would have been swept. And low time frame liquidity would then have been swept as well, while low time frame liquidity to the downside below here and at that point below these lows as well would have been unswept. So if we do that, we front run these lows and instead go for these highs first, then I think a pump into here would be one to be cautious, right? Would be one to not FOMO in on a pump like this and rather look for weakness, a breakback below here. And at that point, I think we should be ready for a move all the way back down towards range lows. What, in my opinion, would be the best for Bitcoin if you're targeting higher? That would be if we go straight up for the lows, sweep high time frame liquidity below here, then reclaim the lows, and then go higher from there. If we then test this area again after already sweeping this, I see a higher probability and a higher chance of managing to break above range highs and going for new all-time highs. While if we front run these lows and go for those poor highs from here, then I don't think we will have the power to smash above here and make it to new highs. All right, is that clear for everyone? So at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a bounce from here, right? Maybe only to these highs, maybe something like this, maybe all the way to here and then a rejection, I don't know, but a good chance that we get a bounce. If not, right, I'll be looking to long a sweep below here or add to my longs on Ethereum on a sweep of last week's low, which I'll explain right now. So Ethereum, the level that we've been watching, if you take a look on the weekly, this chart, remove this. All I've marked here on the weekly is simply this week's high, right here, and last week's low, right? Using, once again, just like Bitcoin, using those higher time frame levels to make a plan and see where we're at, see which liquidity has been taken first, using that on the lower time frames to make our trading plan there. So if we sweep last week's low, so what do we notice on the weekly? Last week's low is still unswept, and that weekly high, we barely have a wick to the upside, which is telling us that we're gonna have a lot of liquidity resting above our current weekly high as well, in my opinion. So what would be the plan here for Ethereum, as we are in higher time frame, very bullish territory, and we broke above all of the main resistances on the chart, basically. We broke above these triple highs, which is a bullish sign, in my opinion at least. So if you're bullish on the higher time frames, you want to be looking for longs. Where do we look for longs? Well, what would be the A plus setup be? If we get down to last week's low, we sweep that level. Where would the higher time frame draw be? Towards our weekly high. So that would, on the lower time frames, in my opinion, form a beautiful setup where we do something like this, sweep last week's low, get a reclaim, boom, and then from there move towards that weekly high and take liquidity above there. From there, either sweep some more highs and reject. We don't care what it does above there. We will at least take half of our profits there, and it holds half or even less, I don't know, just in case it decides to break out and go for 5, 6, 7k. All right, so from here I already took the long. I do have room to add, that's why this was my position. I longed this morning the dip. Currently we're retracing a little again, so can I see another sweep of that low? Yes, of course. That's why I've kept my stops right below here. Another key level right here that got swept, retested, sold off, smashed above there, retest, and all the way up. So right below that key level, allowing for price to sweep last week's low, even a bit lower in case it's a bigger wick, and then reclaim this and still move higher towards our target. All right. And if we do so, I can still add to my position and even increase my risk to reward. And yeah, go from there. Clear for everyone? Bitcoin and Ethereum? I'm bearish since that all-time high sweep. It's a cycle top for me right now. I'm swing short from 122. Yeah, possibly. That's what I'm saying. It's time to be cautious, in my opinion, as well. What invalidates the scenario is simply invalidating the swing failure. And the reason why I think that we could return back towards these 4-hour highs is also because of the look of the weekly. Barely a wick to the upside. So it would be classic, right, in my opinion, to now create a bigger wick to the downside. Maybe still close red, maybe even close in the green, right? If this candle closes in the green, but in between 120 and 117.18, right? Everyone will say, okay, this was a bearish sweep, this was a bullish sweep, back to new all-time highs, and then we sweep last week's high and Yuki 2 range lows. That could be a scenario that would make sense to me as well. All right, so ETHUSD is one setup that I'm currently in. The second one is Curve. Yeah, this was just a lower risk. I posted it in the Discord. Very low risk from here. Basically high time frame sweep, reclaim, retest, looking for continuation towards this high, these highs, and ultimately this high. I've been very close to getting stopped out, then back in profit. Now it's looking quite heavy again. New York Open just happened, so if we see continuation to the downside, this will likely get stopped out. So would I still enter it right here? No, was just a lower time frame setup. If Bitcoin and Ethereum turn from here, yeah, then this will likely go for all of these highs anyways. So I'm just gonna hold this one. The more interesting one was Epic. Took it from the range mean break, right? Had this consolidation, dumped, smashed back above, sort of a breaker setup where this could be seen as supply as market started dumping from there, but then price ignored that supply to the upside, which resulted in buying pressure from the upside. As people wanted to get out of their shorts, they entered there. And as you can see, first time low, bounced, swept, retested, and then from there, strength above range mean, breaking above range high, and now just consolidating here. So in my opinion, it's just a matter of time until this does this. Okay, so still holding this fully. Haven't taken any profits yet, as I think this trades higher. Even if Bitcoin and Ethereum dump a little, I think this will sweep some lows like this, and from there still pump higher. The narrative is there as well, so yeah, let's see how this goes. But I like the price action and the strength on this one the last couple of days. So yeah, willing to take the risk. So those are basically the only three positions that I'm in right now, on margin of course. Apart from that, still holding BNB on spot. Nothing really changed. The weekly new highs again, now just dumped a very little bit. So with a heavy Bitcoin like that and a heavy Ethereum is not that heavy Bitcoin, I'll say, BNB is holding up very well, so I wouldn't be surprised if this trades towards at least $1,000 rather sooner than later. So just holding that one. So yeah, what are my biggest positions in spot? Bitcoin, ETH, BNB. I have some Sol or Litecoin, yeah. Litecoin, pretty ugly rejection after sweeping some lower time frame, higher time frame highs, but swept last week's low. Oops. Last week's low. There, into weekly demand. You could take this as weekly demand, right? As long as we hold above here, I see a scenario where we reclaim this and go for these poor highs right there. Then we'll need a break above this level. Unless we do this, reject, I could see lower, do this and reclaim here. At that point, target a lot higher. And hopefully see the real breakout. If we start bleeding through this area, then I think at least back down towards these lows. If you take this as the highs and this as the sweep, Then the opposite side of the range are these lows. So that would mean something like this, boom, and then higher from there. All right. Can you see a sweep of the EQ lows, equal lows on ETH? Let's see. At 4.6. Equal lows on ETH, then a sweep around 4.6, then going down for the final dip around 4K, or would that be too much chop? I mean, and yeah, you mean like this, take these lows, then up towards 4.6 and then down. Yeah, that's the scenario that I just explained. Taking liquidity to the downside, last week's low, right? Everyone thinks it's over. Bounce it to this weekly high, grab liquidity above lower time frame highs, and then reject. But I wouldn't short a setup like this because the higher time frame, right, is still very bullish. So on higher time frame bullishness like this, you're always better off assuming that a resistance will break rather than a support will break, right? So then I just be cautious with longs instead of actively looking to short it. If we do this and then reject heavily, yeah, then you could take a sneaky short, stops above the highs, and see from there if it lines up with Bitcoin testing that supply. Happy days. But yeah, I definitely think this could be possible. I really hope the Litecoin holders make it big this cycle. I mean, I hope so too. I've been holding for a long time and added heavily, like right here. So I'm back in a loss actually again on my spot Litecoin buys, but yeah, let's see if the game plan is clear. You know what most people are looking for Litecoin is an XRP kind of move. And what does that mean, right? We don't look at 4-hour candles, we don't look at hourly candles. All we want to see is this range right here break out to the upside and squeeze to $300, right? Just like XRP did out of this range, just like Link did out of this range, and now we just hope the same for Litecoin. And is it going to happen? We don't know, but if it happens, it will be worth to hold, right? And you can ask yourself, what's your risk, right? Your reward, obviously, if it plays out, is like a 3x, right? At least a 2x liquid. And what's your reward? Like, in my opinion, if we haven't managed to break down below these lows, like, it's not gonna happen. Do I see this move back towards here and bounce again? Yes, why not? But do I see this do this, right? Like, no. So it's a range, right? And holding in this range is gonna be worth it, in my opinion. And the reward is bigger than the risk. So yeah, that's why I see it. I don't care what other people see, but yeah, I like it. Let's hope we flip this weekly. As you can see, also no wick to the upside. So let's hope we flip the weekly green and then put in a strong monthly, not like this, right? This would be a little bit, yeah, neutral, I'd say, not necessarily bearish, but at that point, if we close like this, I think there's a bigger chance that we go for the monthly low again. So hopefully put in a strong close and then start running away to new highs. All right. Cool. Feel free to post some requests now. I'll cover some and then I'll hop off. So yeah, other altcoins that I like, mostly hype. Why? Equal highs to the upside, always a good sign. Daily, marked out this OTE from the low to the high. Retested slightly front ran it, but what was the kilo resting right above that OTE area? So right above this area, that was this kilo, and that got swept this morning. I was looking for this setup. I've drawn it this morning actually. I was yeah, I was doubting, should I take it, should I not take it? Ultimately I didn't. I took the Ethereum long instead, but this would have been the setup. Stops below OTE and targets simply new highs. If you want this to hold, right, this was a daily sweep. Now we got a daily sweep. Then in my opinion, maybe another sweep like this, but then should be moving to all-time highs next. So this one I like. Apart from that, there's not a lot I like, to be honest. Pengu, I saw some people post about this, but I don't really like it. High, lower high into supply, rejected heavily. So in my opinion, pumps are for selling. Athena, I don't like as well. I posted this on my X this morning, right? So ever since we had this price action, right? I remember in the streams like months ago where I said I thought dips into this red demand, weekly demand area would be a good buy. Not to target all-time highs. What I literally said was just to target this former resistance. I've had this level for months on my chart, and look at what happened. Indeed, buys into this demand were a great buy, targeting that level. So for now, like in hindsight, it's always easy. I had this level on the chart, yet I failed to catch the high. I didn't short. Of course, it looks scary in real time whenever you get the pump into the level. But anyways, it's still good to see it played out. But yeah, I think it will be difficult to break above here. Like do this, right, and close above here. Then I think we attack all-time highs. But for now, all I'm seeing is an ugly sweep into supply, selling off heavily. Highs taken, unswept lows, I think at least back towards here. From there we can see sweep of the lows and reclaim, right? At that point I could see us going higher, or at least start building a new range, right? Something like this, back to the highs, back to the lows, and then we'll see if we manage to break above here, target new highs. If we fail to hold above there and break below here, yeah, then we likely slip through and make it to new lows. Right, so pretty much a waiting game for me. All right. Cool. That's gonna be it for today. Like I said, quick live stream. We'll do these more often. Firstly, I didn't want to stream today, but then I thought, why not do a quick one? Record it like a market review. That's exactly what we did. So you will be able to rewatch if you missed the start. We covered Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, Litecoin, Curve, altcoin position on margin that I'm in right now. Epic trade we covered. So hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.